How are we all doing today? My name is Hossam. I'm your moderator for today's topic, which will be discussed, which is coping with COVID. Coping with COVID lockdowns, a Muslim and atheist perspective. Now, I want to introduce you to our two speakers for today. So, the first speaker we have that will be speaking is Shahir, and Shahir has quite a bit of experience talking, and he is a Muslim, a proud Muslim at that. So he will be addressing the topic from a Muslim perspective. And we also have Fred, who is also very experienced in regards to his beliefs. He is a atheist. So without any further delay, we will begin. So we will have a particular format for the actual talk, which will be the first format will be opening presentation from each side, which will consist of 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes, we will proceed to you could say a crossfire. 5 minutes each will be allowed. And upon that, the completion of that, we will go to a Q&A, which will be for 10 minutes. So without any further delay, and would like to bring forward the first speaker. Shahir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Hossam. Thank you for the nice introduction.
No
Let me get straight to the topic. First of all, thank you everyone for watching this discussion, a very important one on a very important topic, a topic that is affecting all of us, whether we are atheists, whether we're Muslims, whether irrespective of our beliefs. COVID lockdowns has affected everyone. And in this discussion, I aim to present to you some of the coping mechanisms of a Muslim. How do we deal with these lockdowns? Hopefully, we can all benefit from this insight. So, as a Muslim, I believe in the Quran and the authentic sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This is my framework, a Muslim framework. The topic of today's discussion is how does an atheist and a Muslim deal with COVID lockdown? How do we cope with this? There are two definitions I want to give. First, what is a Muslim? And second, what is a lockdown, right? A Muslim, it means a person who believes in Islam. Islam means submission to the one creator. That means at the very beginning, we can see that the framework we look of a Muslim is one which is dictated by someone else, by Allah, the Creator, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right? So first, one of the difference between the Muslim framework is that we believe in a absolute reality. We do not believe in relativism. That means we believe truth exists irrespective of whether the observer knows about it, whether the observer agrees with it or not. So this is a fundamental difference between a Muslim and perhaps a non-Muslim. We don't make things as we please. We don't, if you like, think whatever our desires and thinking. We believe in objective reality. Truth is real. Allah exists. Because of Allah's existence, we behave, we live according to what's permissible for us, what's good and what's bad. That's a Muslim. Second point here is a lockdown. Lockdown, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it refers to a temporary condition imposed by government authorities in which people are required to stay in their homes and refrain from or limit activities outside of the home involving public contact. So, as I said, lockdown has affected everyone, and now I want to share with you how this lockdown has affected Australians, like me and Fred. All of us here, we're based in Australia, and I will tell you a few statistics how this COVID has affected people in Australia. Number one, a survey conducted by Monash University shows that there has been a widespread increase in psychological problems such as anxiety, depression, and irritability that people attributed to the COVID-19 restrictions, right? That means people have become more irritable. There has been an increase in domestic violence as well. Domestic violence, nearly 1 in 10 Victorians have seriously considered suicide during
1 in 10.
1 in 10. And I'll in post-production, I'll give you the link. It came on ABC News. 1 in 10 have seriously considered committing suicide, right? There's the researcher, PhD candidate Mark Seisler. He said that people experiencing those symptoms should get help. He said, I quote, "I think it's important to recognize that you aren't alone." That's what he says. Now, I want to share with you what he's saying. I think it's important to recognize that you're not alone. Now, as a Muslim, this is precisely the point. A Muslim will never feel alone, because by definition, we always have Allah wherever we are, in whatever situation, whether we are facing the difficulty, whatever calamities. That means psychologically, a Muslim can never feel alone. So that itself is a huge, I think it's an amazing mechanism to cope with all this kind of suffering that we might face, because a Muslim can never be alone, right? Whether it's COVID lockdown, whether it's we're about to die, we're always psychologically, we never feel alone, because we know Allah is there, right? We came from Him, we're gonna go back to Him. So this is, I think, it's an amazing antidote to psychological problems, whether anxiety, depression, etc. So I will begin with that. That's the first thing that kind of grounds Muslims, that helps the Muslim to deal with not only lockdowns, but all the
5 minutes remaining.
Sorry?
5 minutes remaining.
5 minutes. Thank you, Hassan. Now, in addition to that, having Allah in our side helps us surmount all these kind of difficulties, because we're not alone, right? Now, I mean, I can give a 1-hour speech on all these solutions that Islam gives us as a Muslim, but let me tell you a few more things. First of all, we know that life is temporary. As a Muslim, life is temporary. We came here as a test. That means life is not a walk in the park. We're mentally prepared for the difficulties. But what Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us is that after difficulty, there will be ease. Another very, very crucial, fundamental coping mechanism for a Muslim, because we know that no matter what sort of difficulties there is in this life, ease will follow. We have to be patient. So as a Muslim, if we are patient, we get rewarded for this, right? So, and that's why I feel, myself anyway, when COVID lockdown happened, I have to say it hasn't been easy, right? It hasn't been easy. It's been tough, but at least I was at peace throughout the whole time. Now, allow me to share with you some very interesting insight. Now, when lockdown happens, initially, as a Muslim, I felt, I can't go to the mosque, right? Because it has affected the Muslims in one main way, is that it sort of cut off our communal gathering. We couldn't go to Friday prayers, right? We can't go to the mosque, right? And Islam is a religion based on community, right? We can practice our religion by ourselves. Prayer we can do by ourselves, all these things. But at the end of the day, it values the community. So in that sense, it was challenging because we had to adapt. But let me tell you, initially it was tough. But what I found, and I've spoke to many Muslims. Initially, it was a bit difficult, but guess what? This COVID lockdown has helped the faith of Muslims as a whole. We have become a stronger community. We have become more faithful, because this lockdown has made us realize that this life is temporary. It has made us realize we can go back anytime, and as a result, it has increased our faith even more. And that's why I found it's fascinating, because it has given us mental fortitude. mental fortitude. And let me share with you that Islam is a religion that
2 minutes remaining.
Yeah. In addition to making us patient, it gives us hope, right? And that will be my my other point before I end. Gratitude. Islam tells us in chapter 14, verse 7, that if you are grateful, Allah will give you more. Gratitude is something fundamental in Islam. And in this COVID lockdown, do I compare myself with other people who are who are not in lockdown? Not really. I was walking yesterday, 2 days ago. I was walking. I saw one person on the street. It was cold. I nearly cried. He was lying on the street. It was very, very cold. I thought, look at this. At least I have a place to sleep, right? So Islam tells us, do not compare with yourself with someone who is better than you. Always be grateful with what you have, and I think it's a great mechanism for us to be grateful, and all of that patience, being grateful, being thankful, allows a Muslim to be at peace with himself or herself. And I would like to end by saying Islam has been a religion who has helped solve the problems of the society and continues to offer solutions to the problems of mankind. Thank you very much.
Perfect timing, Shahir.
Thank you.
Oh, you have your speakers on.
Yeah. So now what we'll do is we will bring the next speaker to present his case. So, Fred, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. All right.
Right,
So go ahead.
For once, I mean, I didn't really quite understand why this debate is actually blending religion or the lack of with the lockdown, because to me there was no really implication of it. But then again, when I listen to Shahir's argument, it's actually raising some valid points. COVID isolation is not something that I truly experienced here in Brisbane, because it hasn't impacted Queensland as much as it has for Melbourne and Sydney. So, I mean, what is lockdown? Shahir has defined it quite well. The lockdown it's hard, obviously, and it's hard for people living alone. As a non-believer, I guess I'm still thinking about others, and I'm thinking about all the people who live by themselves. Like we have families, or some of them have families, some of them are living by themselves, and it must be harder if you do live by yourself, obviously. So it is perhaps a time to reflect on yourself, I guess, to think about life and how precious it is. This is the view of a non-believer, obviously, and I'm sure you do too. It's a good time to do exercise as well. Like, a lot of people have taken up exercising, like going out and going and walking in the park and all that. So it has had some benefits, right? I'm not sure, well, I wasn't really sure if religious people have any advantage in this, but I guess it's free time is good time, so that's always good time for praying for them, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you consider that your God is like a person, like a friend, then of course a Muslim person or a religious person can never really feel truly alone, right? So that's fair enough. It works for you, it works for you. Now, the impact of lockdown, how has it damaged, or what was the impact of it? I would say the most damaging was probably people who were away from their family. Some people have been far away from their family through no choice of their own, and they couldn't travel. They cannot go to Queensland. They cannot go to Sydney. There's lots of problems like this. People are away from their friends, so they can't do their activities, their clubs, their sports. They're going out and all that sort of thing. Everything is sort of in shambles. So that's a bit difficult. You can't do a visit to nursing homes, which I'm sure the elderly people here in Australia will be affected by. And then one thing I also noticed from the impact of lockdown is lots of people turn to alcohol. Obviously not the Muslim one, but a lot of other people. They do binge eating, like lots of people getting fatter, and they drink alcohol sometimes. And it's a sort of a natural reaction to the human mind The human mind, when there's a big drama coming, they tend to eat more. They tend to sort of, or they're bored at home, they eat more as well. That's a normal reaction. That has been noticed as well. Even after 9/11, they've noticed that people were more depressed and more wondering and more questioning their own lives. But anyway, there has been some benefits also with the lockdown, I think. So a lot of people were stuck inside their family, but it's also good to be with the family because you strengthen the bond as well, right? Some people, they must have had some, as Shahir said, they might have had some, what do you call it, fighting, like people fighting with each other, domestic disputes and all that. But also there might have been some reuniting and strengthening of bonds within the families. Then you know who you can stick with and who will always be there for you, even in case of isolation. Another benefit is people have learned to cook from home as well, which has been kind of nice as well. People have been stuck at home, so hey, they have to cook at home, no choice, and it has got some benefits as well. Obviously, there's less traffic, less people in the tram, less people in the train. I'm going to speed up a bit because I'm not sure what my time is. The technology has helped. I think the technology has helped a lot. So you have your Netflix, your YouTube, your Team, your Zoom, all these applications and all these webcam applications have been very beneficial, I think, to prevent people from feeling completely isolated. Right. So you have a window and an ability to actually discuss topics and discuss and be in contact with your family as well.
5 minutes remaining.
Yeah. So imagine what confinement. Imagine what it would have been without the internet. Imagine if this pandemic happened like in 1960 or 1970 when we were born. How would we talk to other people? We didn't even have we had the phones, but it wasn't really webcam or anything like that. It would have been very, very hard. We'd be sending letters with a stamp, you know what I mean? So technology is very advantageous. Now, obviously, a last chapter, science. Science has helped a lot. Science has shown that they can come up with a solution to the biggest drama ever, which to me is one of the biggest drama ever, is a viral infection which propagates to the entire world. So they come up with vaccine, they have medicine, they have hospitals. Again, imagine if that would have happened if the pandemic hit in 1970, it would have been very, very difficult back then. So we can thank science for that. And obviously praying doesn't really help. I mean, I haven't known anyone who's been curing COVID from praying, right? Praying is nice, it's wishful thinking to me, but it gives you perhaps some comfort. As Shahir said, it gives you comfort, which is good. It gives yourself some comfort. I think also the isolation has made me think about the other people who are confined all the time. Prisoners who are locked up, right? That's their fault, mind you, but they are in confinement, right? The people who are with disabilities, the people who are born with disabilities, they're kind of confined. The guy in a wheelchair, he cannot go outside. He can, it's very difficult for them. So you also have, blind people who are born blind, they're also kind of isolated as well. Think about the guy who is stuck in a wheelchair watching all these people on TV protesting because they cannot go out of their home. You know what I mean? It's like you have to put yourself, it opens up a different perspective on life as well. Anyway, talking about the perspective, is the atheist perspective is, well, we have no God to talk to, right? So we talk to ourselves in the shower or in the mirror, and there is no response, but it can also be a coping mechanism, I would say, if I have to compare in the religious and non-religious people. Life is temporary. Shahir said it, and it's right. Life is temporary. And with COVID, it highlights even more the fact that life is precious. Life is here, and it's the only one we know we have, the only life we know we have as a non-believer, right? So I guess atheists don't gather the same way some religion people do, obviously. So we don't go to church. Nobody, I don't know of any atheist who goes to church.
2 minutes.
So the lockdown doesn't really affect non-believers, I guess, in that way. But we can, I guess, to conclude, I would say an atheist is probably seeing the things the way they really are. We live in the real world, this world. We don't comfort ourselves with promises of an afterlife. We just try to enjoy this life. And this COVID is been dramatic. Many people have lost years of lifetime. You know, your whole 80 years lifetime. Well, you've had 1 or 2 years screwed up, and it's a big percentage. I mean, considering. Especially if you consider that you only have one life, as an atheist does.
All right. You've still got a bit of time. Would you like to add?
Well, I would say that
A minute.
if there was a God, to us atheists, I find it quite amusing, but if there was a God now is a good time to show up. You know what I mean? If there was ever a God who's supposed to show up, who come down to do a second coming or something and come and help us and come and fix the problem, but there's no one. So to us, it's just, as a non-believer, it just confirms that I don't think there is any God, or no, there is no God. That's the thing. And we're all in this together. We're all in this together, and we will all survive together, and we will keep on doing other things, all the things that we used to do. I'm sure once everyone's got the vaccine and all that, things are going to ease off, and we're going to go back to normality. But I don't think anybody will actually change their mind. People who weren't religious before, they're not going to change, and people who were religious, they're probably going to stay religious, and it's fine. It's good.
Thank you very much, Fred. Time is up. And let me just turn that timer off. All right. So what we'll do now is proceed to the next phase, which is a 5-minute, discussion or crossfire. Fred, would you like to commence the 5-minute, crossfire or asking each other questions and discussing?
That should be right. Yeah.
But
yeah,
probably going to be Shahir first, I'd say.
Yeah.
So okay. So Shahir, you're happy to go ahead, go first?
Yep, definitely.
Awesome. All right. So let's start. Go ahead now.
Thank you, my dear Fred, for sharing some interesting insights from an atheist perspective. Some valid points, definitely. Some interesting points that you've raised. Let me address some of them. First of all, it's not really a debate. It's a discussion where we share our insights on different perspectives. And one of the benefits of having a discussion is that I feel that when we have a discussion, we are more open, right? This is what I feel. As someone who has debated and participated in panel discussions, I feel that when I prepare for a debate, I tend to listen to the other party less. And that's why I prefer to have discussions instead of debates. That way, it keeps me more open-minded, more receptive to what the other person is saying. So, and I think the audience will benefit from that. Now, you raised an interesting point that this life is the only life that we have. We can enjoy this life, right? Now, you know what, Fred? People who binge eat, people who drink alcohol, this is exactly their mindset. They're saying we have to enjoy this life, right?
Yeah.
You said that yourself, but the thing is, at the same time, you said that there has been an increase in binge eating. There has been an increase in alcoholism. This is precisely what Islam tells us. Islam, one of the fundamental concepts of Islam is moderation. We don't do as we please. We don't believe in our nafs, our desires is telling us to drink, to eat, to enjoy whatever we desire. It's, in fact, Islam is to submit your will to the Creator, and this is exactly what we do as a Muslim. We don't binge eating. We don't indulge in alcoholism and all these excess that we find. That's one. So while we believe that this is the only life we have, but it's more than that. We have many chances in this life, but that's the only life we have. After that, we go back to the Creator, and depending on what we did, the way we live this life, we go to a place that you mentioned before. You mentioned, why doesn't God show up in this life? Yes, In this life, the purpose, it's a test to see who's going to believe, who will be grateful, who will be patient. This is the point of life. It's not because God can do that. God can appear, right? God can appear, but he promises us that in paradise, we'll get whatever we desire, depending on whether we believe we did the right things, right? So this is the point. Life is a test, and we need to be patient. We need to be grateful. Now, when you said, why cannot God intervene? Now, let me share with you a philosophical problem with that. God can do that. He promises that this life is temporary. There's an afterlife where everything is good over there, paradise. Now, let's say, Fred, if God intervenes, let's say if he stops COVID, you might say, well, in that case, I can say, why does he not stop the evil that people do? That's a valid point as well.
Yeah.
If someone robs me, I will say, oh God, why didn't you stop him from robbing me? Then ultimately we will reach a point where we would say, why God, why couldn't you create a life that is only good? Ultimately we'll reach that point. And this is what we're saying. In paradise, exactly at the point. In paradise, it's a place where there's only good, but this is not paradise, this is life, right? So this is...
Afterlife is?
Afterlife is, of course.
Isn't it going to be boring?
Well,
after a few years?
We'll
You'll worry about it when you get there.
Well, let me finish some of my points first. I've got 1 minute left. You mentioned about prayer being supposedly wishful thinking. Not really, because prayer has many benefits from many psychological benefits, right? Many psychological benefits. Now, if we have benefit from it, then if it benefits someone's life, then I don't think anyone can argue that it's wishful thinking. Now, what you're saying, I think what you're saying is prayer doesn't help the bad things happen. But this is the point that I've raised earlier, right? If God intervenes, then you might as well say, you know, it becomes like some sort of paradise, which we are promised for those who believe and those who do good deeds will reach. Final point, because my time is nearly up, 5 minutes. I will mention the point of science, right? Science, as you rightly said, it gave a solution, but guess what? Science can only produce what? It shows a solution like science, a vaccine, yes, but it will never tell you why do suffering happen? Why do problems happen? This is an issue that philosophy solves. This is an issue that religion solves, right? So we need both. We need both. It doesn't mean that a Muslim is against science. We believe in science. We believe also in revelation, which is the Quran. And I will end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Shahir. And we will now go to Fred. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, you mentioned in your rebuttal that that the Muslim world is prone to moderation, right? You mentioned the word moderation. I can see it also as a restriction. I mean, somebody who's telling you to be moderated is somebody who's restricting you from doing what you want. And your mention of the binge eating, yes, binge eating is bad, and going to alcoholism is bad. But maybe it's a coping mechanism for these people. Maybe that's all they have. You know, if you're by yourself and you don't really, you kind of medicate yourself. They medicate themselves with more food and they medicate themselves with more alcohol because, I don't know, they sleep better. I'm not sure exactly. What else? I don't really have much else to say on your rebuttal because you were quite, you made some interesting points, obviously, but there's, well, when I was trying to explain that the interventionist God is not doing anything, I guess it's about doubting, right? And you said it yourself. You said in case of doubt, then you basically imply that it's God testing you, right? And for us atheists, is, you know, I've often spoken with people who are believers, and and who said, well, sometimes, yes, God is testing me. And I try to tell them, look, it's not really God testing you. Maybe it's simply the truth trying to come out. Whenever you question yourself, maybe it's simply the truth trying to come out. Because even any religious person must be having doubts at some stage, right? Especially the people who read a lot about the Christian one and the Muslim one and all the other religions, because there's many, many religions around the world. So at some stage you must be doubting somehow. But again, you also have all coping mechanisms, I guess, to prevent you from veering away from your religion, which is the classic sentence, God is testing me. And we don't have any of that, obviously, as an atheist person. We just have ourselves on this planet, and we highlight even a bigger responsibility for us to actually do the right thing on this planet, on this one life we have. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
It makes sense. I've got to bubble a bit, but
yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. It makes sense. Absolutely makes sense what you said.
All right.
What we are going to do now is proceed to open Q&A. So the Q&A will include anyone is free to ask any questions. So what I'll do is proceed to commence to that now. So if yourself, Shahir or Fred or Khalid, if any of you have any particular questions to ask one of our two guest speakers today, please go ahead and ask. So we'll commence that as of now. So would anyone like to begin?
Yeah, let me I'll ask one question first. Now, Fred, my question to you is Fred. You mentioned that binge eating and alcoholism is a way in which people cope with the COVID. Now, as you and I know, it's not a solution. Binge eating, what is the effect of binge eating? They become fat. They even could develop some complications. Alcoholism, science that you mentioned a few times, science, from a scientific perspective, binge eating, alcoholism is not good. This is something that science, not religion is saying that, science is saying that. You eat more, what happens? You drink a lot, what happens? You end up, committing, you lose your mind, if you like.
Yeah.
You become...
you'd have to drink a fair bit, but yeah.
Now the thing is, how exactly does binge eating and alcoholism provide a solution?
No, how is praying providing a solution?
I'll get to that.
COVID is still there, you know what I mean? It's like...
I'll get to that. But how about you answer this, and then I will answer the prayer part as well.
You mean how is it helping? It's not helping. Binge eating is not helping.
Right.
People turn to alcoholism when they have problems. That's how they do in this world. I mean, in the world the way I know.
Right.
And it's not ideal.
So it's not a solution.
Some people are in unhappy marriages and they turn to alcoholism or other coping mechanisms, and they're not good. Most of the time, coping mechanism is not very good. It's either fucking eating pills or drinking alcohol and hiding a bottle of wine in the
Right.
So that's not very good. I never said it was good, right?
Right.
I know it's not good, but that's how they cope. That's what it is. They just deal with it, and they have nothing else, and they're by themselves, and they just say, "Oh, yeah, why not? We'll deal with it later.
Okay.
I will lose weight later." I think it comes from very ancient human beings when they were hunting and gathering, and they knew that winter was coming, and they pack up the pounds.
Yeah.
Before winter comes. I know it's crazy because it's 10,000 years ago, right? But I still think we have something like that inside our brain. We need to gather toilet paper. We need to gather spaghetti. It's true. It's like this because we know that winter is coming. Bad winter is coming. That's what it is.
That's right. Right. Thank you, Fred. I will answer your question about prayers. But since you mentioned toilet papers, let me share with you. I cannot stop from saying that because, as you probably know, last year when COVID hit, there was a panic buying where people were rushing to buy toilet papers.
Yeah.
There was no toilet. Dunny rolls were empty. We couldn't even see. Some people were selling toilet papers from the black market, right? Some people were making a quick buck out of selling toilet papers. Now, let me tell you something. It didn't really affect Muslims because we use water, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people think, oh, what? This another benefit, I would say, from a Muslim perspective. It didn't really affect us, even from that perspective. Now, let me address the prayer. Now, you said, well, prayer as well, it's not really helping because prayer is pretty much wishful thinking, is not benefiting. But as I said, as I said to you before, prayer provides a solution, a mental solution, right? Of course, I cannot say there's a physical solution per se, but often if you fix problems in your mind, if you make sense of things in your mind, generally it translates to the body. This is what I found from living. If I have a problem if I have a solution in my mind, if I feel at peace with my mind, generally it has a flow-on effect to my body as well. I feel like I'm in peace. You know, this is what I feel, right? I don't know what science says about this. Yeah. So to answer the question, how does prayer help? It helps me be more in control. This is what I would say, as opposed to binge eating. And trust me, I've tried both. Sometimes, I mean, I'm a human being. I make mistakes, right? Sometimes I do binge eat. Of course, I don't drink alcohol. But when I do binge eat, guess what? I feel bad. When I go to bed, I feel like, oh, I regret eating all these, KFC and all this kind of stuff. So at least, prayer, it's way different from that. So this is what I'm going to say. Now,
I would say the equivalent in the atheism world it would be meditation. People who do meditation, it's exactly that. They just have time to themselves and think about their problems or try to think about nothing sometimes. And it's a very similar need, very similar sort of niche problem that you fix. You fix it with praying, they fix it with meditation. Same,
right.
And in meditation, no one ever answers your prayer.
Yeah. Fred, can you tell us exactly what meditation is?
I haven't done much of it, but I've done a little bit, and it's sort of a quiet time that you do usually alone to yourself, and you listen to quietening music, and you try to empty what's in your mind completely. And of course, you've got ideas coming up, and you try to flush them away. There's techniques to do it. It's actually not. It's not that bad. I should probably do it more often.
All right. Does it help you answer the why questions of life, existential questions?
No, because it makes no difference. Because no, I don't think it does. And it's not trying to either. Why would a tiny little human being need to think about the big things like who created the universe and where do I come from and all that stuff? This is just like it's like a little ant, on a little planet in the middle of the cosmos. It's so big. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like you don't have. They don't have. I don't think a non-believer doesn't have time to think about these things. And I'm not even sure that religious people, some do, like that's a more what do you call it? Theological, not theological.
Theologians.
Yeah, when you think about ideas, people think about ideas.
Philosophical.
Yeah, philosophical. That's right.
Right.
But some religious people just go to church and they're just not really philosophical about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They go to work on Monday and then they come back. They have their weekend and then they do it all over again. You know what I mean? They're just the same as anyone else. Without thinking, you don't need to think about all these grand plans and trying to work out who created what.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Fred. Now the thing is, the reason why I ask you about meditation and prayer, because this is what I really think. I really think meditation is when you speak to yourself. I think there are some benefits. It helps you recalibrate, if you like. As an introvert myself, I do that most of the time. I go to some quiet places. It helps me recalibrate. Now, having said that, there are some benefits, but it's not enough, because by human nature, we're curious. We like to know why are things happening, right? Just like you. I'm sure you want to know why this COVID happening, why many things, why suffering is happening. I mean, this is a very valid question that human beings can ask. And what I want to say is prayer is much more holistic than meditation. Like as you said yourself, sometimes you look in the mirror, you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Now, talking to yourself, we all do that. Sometimes we kind of, it's a way in which we kind of ask each other questions to see how we're going, etc. But as you probably realize, talking to yourself, it's like we think we are in control of everything else, right? We can make sense. But what about those questions that are unanswered, right? What about those questions that we cannot answer by ourselves, right? The existential questions. For example, one of them. Let me ask you as well. Like, who do you think COVID created itself?
I think it has evolved, yeah, from some sort of cross-mixing with animals, I would say. It's
Yep.
been, they have had some SARS and they've had some other stuff like swine flu and things like this, where they did give us warning. They did warn us many years ago, remember?
Yep.
And then it just sort of went away. And then we had Ebola also, which was actually, propagating quite dramatically in Africa. And then it just sort of died off, so nobody cared, right? But then this time around, they did warn us, and nobody cared. And then they say, "Oh yeah," and now we see the result.
Mhm.
It is very dangerous. It evolves. It's biological. It's chemical. It's you can explain it with science. You can explain it with science. Whether it was engineered, if it was your question, I don't think it was, because it's so good, it's so well done that I don't think it. I don't think that humans are capable of doing that yet, right? Only nature is capable of creating something like that, like an accident. Because I believe that most things in life on this planet is an accident. Life itself might even be an accident.
An accident. So you think, yep. Fair enough. I don't want to probe even more on this. Let us at this point allow questions from the audience. Maybe they might want to engage with us.
Yes. Is there any other questions from the audience?
Oh, okay. Well,
If you can put your question very brief in 1 minute.
You can
Short
turn
and
the
sharp.
camera on if you want.
And
okay.
yeah, just a 1 minute question, very short, precise, concise, and sharp. That would be great, because we are running out of time. So if you have a quick question, please go ahead.
Yeah. Well, as like COVID did impact on, I believe, on us Muslims in the way of not being able to go to the mosque for early morning prayer, for example. But it helped us a lot to really think that we're not alone. That's number one. And it tested our faith, because many people might, for an argument's sake, people might think, oh, you only got to the masjid, which is to the mosque, just to show that you are going there to pray and to make yourself as some top person, whatever. But the fact is, it proved wrong a lot of people because we still pray at home. So really, there's not much really effect in that way. And it did affect on gathering, yes, gathering together in the mosque, Friday prayer. We had Eid Fiesta, for an example. Last week, we couldn't be together. Other than that, seriously, it did not really make much effect. It's only the gathering and so on. That's about all.
Text message.
Yes. So Khalid, what's your question, brother? If you could just put
Okay.
your question forward, that way we can have it addressed for you by one of the speakers.
Well, the question is, what have we learned from this COVID-19? What have we really learned? What we went through, what have we truly learned from it? This is the question. Well, what do you think people learned from it? I don't know. Maybe somebody can help me regarding that.
Do you want to take that question, Fred?
Yeah. Well, as a non-believer, I guess it has showed us that more than ever, we are on our own on this planet. We are on our own with other human beings, and we have to rely on other human beings to help us out of this problem. by creating the vaccine and taking the vaccine.
But would
Sorry.
when you're speaking about the vaccine, we've been hearing a lot of things about the vaccine. People having blood clot, like numbers high sometimes, and people saying that it has not been really purified, that 100% that's going to help. So what do you think of the vaccine? I mean, the vaccine is another problem, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist, and I trust, and as a society, that's really what we have to do, is we have to trust people with higher skills than us. And I have to trust the doctors. So I did get vaccinated, and I have to trust people because we did get vaccinated for measles or mumps or lots of other things that we get vaccinated against when we're babies, Nobody's ever asked where they come from or what kind of percentage of drama we have with them, and I'm sure there's some bad reactions as well with normal vaccines. So and coming
What
up
I'll do is,
and picking up, people worrying about the Pfizer one or whatever that is, they're happy to take the Pfizer pill when it comes to Viagra, and they have no problem, and we don't know what's in it. But when it comes to a vaccine, then all of a sudden, everybody's drama.
That's a good
I've seen
point.
people take ugly stuff in nightclubs, in the toilets. They don't know what it is, and drugs and all that sort of stuff. You have no idea what's in it. They take it, without any problem. So
That's so true.
there's always
Makes sense. It makes
nothing
sense.
is 100% proved.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, just what I want to do is just to make it fair, I'll pose that question to Shahir. So Shahir, as Khalid questioned, he said, what have we learned in this lockdown? And what are your thoughts regarding, the vaccine? Is that really, a real protection? Or do Muslims, what's your thoughts on the vaccine? And what have we really learned during the lockdown? What have we learned from it? Go ahead.
Thank you, Hossam. What have we learned from it? Of course, the main theme of my talk was what was centered around one point, which is to realize that we're not alone. We have Allah Azza wa Jal on our side. We come from Allah. We will go back to Him. Life is temporary. That's the main point of it. Is to know that we're here for a very, very short time. We will never have solutions for every single thing, but we will come back. We will go back to our Creator. That's the number one thing. Life is very short. Of course, we do the best we can in this life. We will go back to our Creator, because nothing comes. We don't believe life is an accident. Let's put it this way. Because if life's an accident, we shouldn't care anything else. If life is an accident, why should we care anything? There's no purpose, right? If an accident just happens, that some people are lucky, right? It's about luck. We don't believe in luck. We believe in gratitude. We need to be grateful to someone, right? When someone says, I'm grateful, the next question I will ask that person is, grateful to whom? Are you grateful to yourself, knowing very well you're an accident yourself? No. So next question is about what's my thoughts on the COVID vaccine, and my response will be similar to Fred. I'm not a medical expert, but what I would say is definitely, as Fred mentioned, people don't have any problem with taking Viagra. Why should they have a problem with the COVID vaccine? But what I would say, something extra here. Prevention is better than cure. Having said that, we should keep our minds open about the effectiveness of those vaccines. Definitely, prevention is better than cure. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. It's better to protect ourselves.
It does seem to work, though.
Fair enough.
In America, they said that in hospitals in America, they say they still have people coming in, like bad people that need the tube and all that sort of stuff, but none of them have been vaccinated.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, can you vaccinate me now? And so, sorry, it's too late now. You have to put the tube in.
That's right. But what I would say, something different, is something more an implication of that. What seems to be happening, especially these days, there are some people who are vaccinated happily. So there are some people who are very reluctant. Now, reluctant doesn't mean they don't want. They will say no to vaccination at any cost. What I tend to see is that there are some people who are very willing to get vaccinated, but there's some people who are very reluctant. What I think these kind of people think is that we need time for this vaccine to become bulletproof and all this kind of stuff, which is even valid as well. But what I would say is, people, we shouldn't discriminate against anyone. This is my point, because what tends to happen is that perhaps at in workplaces where people there are two clans now. One of those people are those who are vaccinated, and another group of people who are not yet vaccinated. Now, what I'm saying is there shouldn't be any kind of dichotomy and vilification that happens, right? Oh, I'm vaccinated, so let's hug. These people, oh, they're not really vaccinated. Let's exclude them. No, I don't think this should be the way. We should help each other. We should still be courteous to each other, to one another, and I think that's the best way forward.
I don't think in Australia anyway, I don't think anybody will ever force you to get vaccinated. I mean, can you imagine somebody would have to hold your arm and then put your thing inside? I don't think so. Imagine
I hope we don't.
I
hope we don't get to that point. For what I've been hearing, that somehow they will send the army down to the ground and standing at the end of the street and so on. I hope it doesn't happen to them.
That's right.
It would not be freedom of speech even or want. It will be horrible. It will be horrible.
I hope we don't get like what the Philippine President Duterte said. He said, if anyone doesn't get vaccinated, I'll vaccinate them in their bum.
Crazy, that guy.
I don't believe it should be forced on to anyone anyway. It should not
hopefully there'll be enough people so that we can get rid of this and then move on with whatever's left of our lives.
Yeah.
And happily again,
just want to add one thing quickly, is which may have been from a Islamic perspective, is Muslims have complete reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means the belief is that the vaccine is not the whole source of protection, because we believe that anything that happens to you or doesn't happen to you only happens with the permission of Allah. So as a Muslim, your reliance and dependence is not on a vaccine. I just wanted to add that very quickly. And with that, I think it would be a good night to end. Any final words, Shahir, before we end on that?
Yes. Well, my final words would be, I'd like to thank Fred for engaging in this discussion. I think we need these kind of discussions to talk to one another. I do not think by saying, oh, this is what we believe, that's what they believe. We all have perceptions of what other people think, and we just kind of keep it to ourselves, right? This kind of mindset creates dichotomies, right? It creates even more misunderstanding. So what I encourage viewers, is to do that, even at workplaces or anywhere. If you see a Muslim or an atheist or whoever, have a discussion, right? Doesn't matter if you disagree, no problem, right? I feel that when you talk, it doesn't matter whether you end up agreeing with the other person, but the point is to get to know one another. It's a very, very effective way to get along well, right? Rather than saying, oh, this is what we believe, this is what they believe, they're like this, us and them. So when we have discussions, it helps us to get along with one another, irrespective of our differences.
Yeah.
So I think that I will end here. I'd like to thank you again, Fred.
Thank you.
Fred, any final words? You'd like final words, Fred?
No, I agree with what Shahir said. I mean, as an atheist, when you decide to abandon your faith, at first people are angry, and that's why you probably have that misconception of the angry atheist, and they're always like angry and revolted. It's because we feel cheated on. right? When you lose your religion, you feel cheated on yourself. Fuck it, I spent all this time believing in this, and it actually doesn't exist, and you firmly believe in it, and it makes you kind of an angry person, and you tend to be, oh no, I'm an atheist, blah blah blah. And after a few months, in my case, I've stopped doing that. I'm saying, well, I've actually started even respecting more religions, respecting religions more. Like different religious people have got the right to believe in whatever they want, and it should be a freedom, just like the freedom of not getting vaccinated if you don't want to. So I learned to respect different religions and to study them and to sort of learn about them in just like an historical kind of way, and a different kind of people, and we live more in harmony. And it's possible to live in harmony with believers and non-believers. It's absolutely no problem.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Fred. Thank you so much for that, Shahir. Well, we'd like to end with that note. So,
Thank you.
and thank you, Khalid, for attending. Appreciate that. So I'd like to end here. The time is out, and perhaps until next time, we have another topic. We'll see you guys on the next topic.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Osam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Without your love.